Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Game 2 of this Best of 3 series. I'm your host, Karaslegacy, as we continue coverage of the 4 Balance 2 Power Tournament. Alright, let's speed it up a tad and let's kick it in. On the top side, we have Team Fleet CMD, represented by Danny Vi and Mon. Interesting to note that Mon had taken on Basari in the first game and now switched over to Advent. We got a little bit of change there. On the bottom side, we have Team TooSlow, represented by the double TEC, Marvin and Harkon. Now, this is Transtav. This is quite a different map from Crossfire. Whereas the Crossfire we saw in Game 1 with the spawns was quite a big kind of rush map, very close spawn proximity. This is a much larger, longer map. And so some of that greedy play we saw in the first game might be more rewarding here. It'll be curious to see if Team TooSlow decides to maintain an economic approach in this game, or if they do decide after the sting in the first game, if it's best to kind of switch it up, change strategies.
Civilian research complete.
So we see, let's start with the top with Danny here. Danny's going with the Mars to opener, pretty standard for the TEC nowadays. And looks like, yes, kind of similar to the first game, we're getting a Shrike and unlock, basic civ techs moving into military tech, and starting the basic expansion. Now, something to note here about Danny's play that's good to pick up for those of you trying to improve your play. We're seeing this kind of double expand push. Danny is using his basic cobalts to take out the neutrals in the asteroid area and then expand on here. Oftentimes players, when they're first starting out, really try to keep all of their ships together. But when you're dealing especially with these initial asteroids, the asteroids are pretty easy to take out. They have very little in the way of enemies that can do real damage. And so your cobalts are perfectly fine to be able to take out an asteroid on their own. So this is a way to kind of accelerate your expansion by splitting up your fleet, taking on different areas, and then once you start dealing with kind of a bigger planet with more real defenses, you can combine your fleet back together and take those on together.
Our fleet is under attack.
So it looks like Danny is kind of starting his expansion, moving on. Mon is starting with a pretty solid Civ or Harmony research opener. Pretty typical for Advent to go kind of early Civ Tier 2, especially in Transtav. We do have a Rapture battleship. Kind of a little bit of an older choice, I'd say. Rapture is still a good ship for Advent, but it's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit versus some other choices. That said, we do see a solid Disciple push. Disciples have been looking really good in the Advent meta right now, so seeing a large quantity of these makes perfect sense. And in similar fashion to Danny, we see how the two players are kind of splitting up their fleets to try to maximize their expansion as quickly as possible.
Harmony research tier complete. Harmony research complete. Another planet joins the
Meanwhile,
Unity. Mining upgrade
down to the south,
a colonizable planet has been discovered.
Alright, we do see another Civ. It does look like another trade opener here for Harkon.
Our fleet is under attack.
Let's see if we're...
Civilian structure
Yep, we already see that trade starting to come online. Looks like a focus on credits for the moment. Now, like I said, this is a much more economic map, so this trade might actually pay off quite a bit better than we saw in the first game. So we'll see how that works out.
A new colony has been founded. Civilian research complete.
And Marvin, looks like Marvin may be...
Research complete.
Okay, Marvin is also open Civ 2, but we don't see a push on modular yet. So let's see.
Our fleet is under attack.
Okay, we are seeing a little bit of trade, but... Okay, so this is... I consider this a mistake. Here by Marvin, so this is a good learning lesson for you players out there. If you're going to invest in the Civ 2 tech before you really kind of get your trade operational, then you should just go for this tech. It pays for itself very quickly, especially if you're going any kind of trade strategy. So Now, if you're just sticking on tier 1 Civ, it's more understandable. But if you're already going to spend the effort to push here, you might as well take this tech first, then get all your trade online. It'll save you quite a lot of resources. Gonna keep things moving just a tad here. We do see another coal opener from Marvin. He does seem to prefer that coal. And actually, while we're looking, okay, so it is actually a double coal opener from our double TC players. So 2 coals can bring quite a bit of pain, but generally the meta has been favoring the Marza quite a bit in kind of TC openers. And again, you do see the Sova periodically as a very fast, aggressive, expanding capital, and you'll also see, on occasion, you'll see the Akan for a really aggressive kind of trade kind of push.
Scouts have found a
But the coal is just generally falling out of favor in the meta. We're not seeing it a lot.
Our fleet is under attack.
Most people would argue that the Marza nowadays just does everything the coal does, but better. And from my perspective, I would generally agree with that. I think the coal is great as a later capital. It gets a lot more use later in the game, especially once you get to tier 3 and your Hoshinkos can restore antimatter. At that point, the coal's laser becomes quite a bit more effective. But until that time, the stun from the Marza and its ultimate still just cannot be beaten. Alright, so we do see the Disciples pushing in here by themselves with no... okay, this might be... Yeah, I think Monmon's taking on a little bit too much here. These Harka are not gonna have any issue dealing with these Disciples. Alright, so he's brought in his Disciple here. He brought in his Rapture. Rapture does have domination. Yeah, he'll use that to grab the Harkas here and start turning these forces towards his benefit. So with the domination in mind, he should start to be able to clean this up. So yeah, very aggressive expansion for Mon. And now just really putting on the gas here, really putting on the push and the tech advancements here. We actually see a push to the Vigilance. Vigilance has started to see more use. It was considered pretty weak ship for quite a long time, but it's gotten some buffs and sees more use nowadays. So it looks like we're seeing a push to that. Looks like a heavy teching presence, but not a lot of tech has actually been taken from Mon, which I guess makes sense. I mean, consider how fast we're seeing a tech here. There's only so many resources to go around and actually utilize that tech. I want to take a quick look. So looks like Marvin's got just a basic. Okay, now 4 trade.
Logistics upgrade complete.
You see 2-2 position opener and a focus on the Jiskin here.
Our fleet is under attack.
Nothing surprising there. Arkin has gone very, very aggressive on Civ Tech. Alright, so Civ 3 is now open. I'm actually not seeing any Civ 3 yet. But very heavy trade opener here.
Your arguments are compelling. I shall stand with you. Let the bidding commence.
So yeah, the two sides continue to build up and towards each other.
Our fleet is under attack.
We can see here that Mon is taking over several of the relics in the middle here, able to push these quickly, and we'll get quite a bit of experience and derelicts as well. So
no bid.
I think Monmon's going to come out of this in the early favor. By the time that Harkin kind of gets into the center here, I think Monmon's going to clearly establish this crystalline world, which is a huge advantage for the Advent, as they're very crystal heavy.
Defense upgrade complete.
So I think Monmon's going to have a great position here as we're getting close to the first confrontation. All right, taking a look at Marvin's composition. We see a pretty heavy, almost exclusively Cobalts. We do see the first Hoshinko online. And then again, we have that coal with no real items yet. We do have Fusillade in the beam. This one's tough to manage this early. Let's take a look, see if Marvin's moving to tier 3 yet. Looks like he's just starting to push that. So the problem with this opener here is
you twisted me arm.
this tends to burn quite a bit of antimatter. And so you tend to burn out of your antimatter very quickly, and then your beam just becomes useless. Normally, you go with the if you're going with the beam early, you go with the shield, because the shield just doesn't consume as much antimatter in general. Until, like I said, once you get up to tier 3, and the Hishinko can start replenishing antimatter, it's a very different story. All right, the two sides begin to build up. Now we do have this nice connection point down here for Team TooSlow. Archon and Marvin are both able to kind of join their fleets together in this one area.
Planet item complete.
Whereas above, fleet is still kind of split. So depending on how this goes, that could be an advantage for TooSlow. But I'm guessing is what's going to happen is we're going to get a pincher. These two are going to kind of come in on both sides, and it's going to kind of split down the middle what these forces are dealing with. Now, taking a look at the fleet supply real quick, we do have Marvin at 311. We've got Harkin at 119. Harkin is really, really focused. Oh, even going into huge cargo holds. Tons of trade investment here. But no real investment in ships. Meanwhile, Danny's up to 423. Almost at 524. Huge advent push above, and I think, yeah, I think Team TooSlow they're just too greedy right now. All right, we're going to slow things down now as it looks like the action might be about to heat up here. Okay, Mama has gotten his Raptor all the way to level 6, so we do have Malice online.
Time to bid.
For those of you who remember the glory days, Malice used to be one of the signature ultimates of the game, often able to win entire battles by itself. While Malice has still got its moments, it is nowhere near as strong as it used to be. It's gotten some pretty heavy nerfs, which, quite frankly, I think were warranted. It was quite a bit overpowering, especially for newer players. But that's one of the reasons the Raptor just hasn't seen as much use in the modern meta as it once did.
Let this be a lesson. Next time, pay up.
I'm gonna look over. Curious what Danny's Mars is up to now. So he does have a 4 Mars and a 1. It's got 2 here. Pretty heavy Stillet investment. So we're kind of seeing the same comp for Danny as the first game. This time, though, a smaller Shuriken force and then a more bigger focus, on the Stillets. Do we see anything to counter that? So, looks like Marvin really needs to be scouting this comp right now, because his comp is not designed to handle Danny's. Cobalts are not good against Corvettes, not in these numbers. Now, if you get your Corvettes to a very large number, I mean, we're talking like 80 ships kind of thing, they actually can start dealing with Corvettes just by the amount of fire they put in the air. But in these numbers, there's no flak, there's no radiation bomb. Yeah, this is a concern point. I'm seeing in chat here that Danny's talking about building up before moving out, but frankly, I think he's kind of missing his opportunity. There is really no counter here for Marvin. I think Danny could actually do a lot of damage here if he decides to go ahead and press in. Waiting like this is giving some advantage here to Team TooSlow, who has been focused on trade and economy, and so every moment that goes by is a little bit more time for them to boost up. Now I say that, it looks like Danny has actually not been slouching himself when it comes to trade. So there has been some trade investment on both sides. Danny's got a decent amount of trade here. Tons of exotics, actually, from I think all those relics they've been collecting. And so we are seeing just kind of this steady build up to tier 3.
Civilian structure complete.
So looks like Danny is going for Savage Thrill, one of the Primacy's most powerful techs. Let's kind of take a look at all of our players here. Monma is just getting into tier 3, it looks like. Yeah, just kind of focusing on the tech scenario here. Moving into Illuminators out of the Disciples. Illuminators are often the Advent mid-game, and oftentimes they're in-game too. Illuminators are just great. They are solidly tanky. They do good damage. They're relatively inexpensive. They're just, in general, just
Harmony research
overall
complete.
quite a good ship.
Our forces have engaged the enemy.
Now, Harkon. Okay, so Harkon's had some time and does not look like we're seeing that much of a build-up. We are seeing some Shrike in here, and it does look like a couple of Harka. With Tier 3, let's see. Tier 3 is coming online, so this must be stolen Harka.
All right.
Yeah, we saw this big push to Tier 3, but frankly, the only tech that was really utilized was huge cargo holds. And well, that's a great tech. Oh, I apologize. There is actually exotic factories as well. That makes sense. So it looks like they were trying to build up some exotics here, but I think they're not gonna be in time here. All right, let's slow things down. Actually, let's go even slower. Got a nice big battle here to review. All right, looks like Marvin has finally been able to kind of get some Hark online, which is going to be somewhat helpful against the Stillet, because they actually can hit corvettes decently well, but the Stillet missiles are also going to be good against the Harka. I mean, this is just way too much fleet supply. Marvin does not have a huge defensive line here and is forced to pull back. We do see it looks like Danny is starting to shift into Javelus as well. Makes sense. They could be a solid counter to Harka once they get to a kind of a critical number. Meanwhile, Monmouth is just enjoying a front line of stolen Harka to escort the Illuminators. All right, we do see. It's always good to see a few Domina in the mix, kind of messing with things, primarily to help suppression and disable ships. All right, Harkin is now joining the battle. But I mean, if we take our quick, let's just back it off real quick. Take a quick look at the fleet supplies. Yeah, this is just a battle of the tape. One side has all the fleet supply, and the other one does not. Yeah, Harkin is making a mistake here. He needs to get out of here absolutely ASAP. This is not a battle he needs to be involved in.
An allied colony.
Yeah, Marvin is coming back with more forces. All this just needs to get out of here. This is way too much for them to be dealing with. And it looks like, we do have a nice level 6 Cole, very tanky, but it's not tanky against this many Illuminators. And it is about to get iced.
We're going down. Next time, place a bid.
So yeah, these Stillets are going completely unanswered. There's no flak here. There's no radiation bombs. And so they're just going to make mincemeat out of these Harka. That plus the Illuminators. Yeah, there's not enough Cobalts here to really threaten anything. This is going to be a cleanup action in short order. Marvin's got to get out of here. This fleet's about to get wrecked. All right, let's go back to base speed for a sec. Will this Cole make it out? I think it will, barely.
An allied capital ship has been destroyed.
I was wrong. It actually gets killed in mid jump out. So in that mind, I think that is pretty much going to be game. Harkin. Let's see, we've got Danny. Yeah, we've got about 1,700 fleet supply versus about 500. Yeah, we're just gonna accelerate through this a bit.
Military structure complete. Civilian research
And
complete.
yeah, we're just gonna see, at this point, this force is so small.
Military research
Our
complete.
combined force, our fleet CMD is bringing the fleet,
Research complete.
and
military structure complete.
they're just gonna start
Upgrade
cleaning up
complete.
all the
Military
buildings around here.
research complete. Civilian structure complete. Our fleet is under
And with
attack.
that, the GG is called.
Hostile forces have arrived.
And so we have Fleet CMD taking the match, taking the series, and will move on into the next phase of the tournament. So again, thank you all very much for watching this series. Once again, I'm Karaslegacy. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.